delusional belief structure. The more she learned about these ideas, the more disturbing it was to her. But she had grown more under his control once she was pregnant with his child. No matter how crazy he acted, no matter how nutty his beliefs sounded, he was the father of the baby she carried, and she was totally dependent on him now. She had entered the relationship without a strong sense of self, and Grant eroded what little she did have. She was stranded in a volatile relationship, with none of the needed self-confidence to strike out on her own. A few months after their wedding, Grant had also asked Laura to be in a polygamous relationship with him. When she refused, he went outside of the marriage and hooked up with a girl named Kinston that December, a mere 7 months after his matrimonial ceremony with Laura. Laura learned about the woman's existence when she was in the 2nd trimester of her pregnancy. The grin on Grant's face when he talked to Kinston on the phone while Laura was in the same room made it seem as if he was delighted to keep Laura's insecurity at the highest level possible. Knowing she could hear him, he asked Kinston to marry and run off with him. When Grant hung up from the call, Laura confronted him. He justified his behavior by pointing to her polygamy refusal. He then added that he wanted to have sex with Kinston because she had a large butt. Although Grant obviously needed the company of adoring females, it seemed as if he had no respect for any woman. Grant certainly didn't have any for Laura's close friend Heidi Schumacher. In fact, he despised her. He told Laura what he thought of that woman and insisted that she cut off contact with her. But the two women kept communicating, despite Grant's disapproval. When he was at a band meeting, prepping for a show or performing, they'd get together somewhere for a cup of coffee or dinner. Despite those efforts with Heidi, however, Laura would later admit, "I allowed myself to be alienated from my friends and family. Everyone I knew was either really dumb or too fat or not good enough to be around us," according to Grant. In her 3rd trimester, Laura was once on the phone with Heidi, who could hear Grant yelling in the background, "Heidi is a bad influence on you. I forbid you from seeing her ever again." When Laura tried to hang up the phone, Heidi begged, "Please don't, Laura." "I have to," Laura said between sobs, and disconnected the call. Worried about what might be happening at her friend's home, Heidi immediately hopped into her car and drove 20 minutes to check on Laura. As she arrived, Heidi saw a big black sedan pulling away, with Grant in the passenger seat. Laura opened the front door as Heidi approached. Laura was sobbing, her nose was bleeding, and Heidi thought it appeared to be broken. One of Laura's eyes was swollen nearly shut, and the area around it was deep red. Heidi was certain that Laura would have a black eye by the next morning, if not sooner. It didn't take a detective to reach the conclusion that Grant had physically assaulted Laura. She suggested that the police should be called, but Laura said, It's okay. I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to press charges." "Laura, you need to go to the hospital. You're pregnant. You need to go to the hospital to make sure everything is all right." No, it's okay. We're going to get through this. He's never done this before, but it's okay." Laura was shaking all over and crying as she pleaded with Heidi, "Please, I don't want anybody to know." "Just come out to my car and I'll drive you to the hospital," Heidi said. Laura continued in her stubborn refusal. Heidi stayed with her for an hour and a half, trying to break down her friend's resistance to seeking medical treatment, but to no avail. She finally left after Laura's tears dried and she had calmed down. When Heidi saw her again a couple of days later, it was clear that Laura had tried to cover up her injuries with makeup, but the swelling and dark coloration were still quite obvious. Laura's first child, Grant Ruffin Hayes IV, was born on May 2nd, 2008. Heidi visited Laura's home as soon as she returned from the hospital. With the birth of their grandson,